about, what Satyamev Jayate keeps talking about, a bit successfully I might add, that everyone has a problem with the way things are being done in this country. How many of us do things about it? How many of us act? They are trying to use a place where it's easier for us to act, for the lazy version of us, which is us, to act upon it. Which is why they have 133,000 likes. They did not do an ad campaign. This is the viral nature itself. Everyone has a problem. Everyone wants to share, which is why you see that much interaction with content like that. Everyone's happy at the end of this when they see a response from Delhi Traffic Police apologizing for that and saying that they did something about it. You feel slightly happy that somebody is doing something? So the whole point I'm trying to make here is all of these are ways of empowering communication. It could be a brand, it could be an independent person. Let me give you an example of that actually.
Good morning. I am your taxi driver Devesh Mishra. I live in Varanasi. I also make an arrangement for you North India, Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh, Uttaranchal and down towards Calcutta. I also make arrangement the hotels if you need. If you need your privacy, I just drive for you. And sometime if you need, I make escort you and tell about the Hinduism and tell. I also make arrangements with private person to you know there more about Hinduism. My mobile phone number is 0091 941 5648681. My email address is gitsu2003@yahoo.co.in. Please give me chance to serve you better. Thank you very much. You're welcome once again. You're most welcome to see the India part. I also make arrangement for 5 days to 20 days. Just minimum. Thank you very much.
Which country is this guy from? Country. Does it come across patently that this is an Indian guy? Can it be more Indian than this? A typical Indian taxi driver? Has he got his branding right at the end of all of this? Yes, no? Everything you understood today about branding, has he nailed it exactly? Now, when you get a chance, go look at this video on YouTube. It doesn't have millions of views. It has a few thousand of them. But what is important is he has taken cognizance of the fact that the branding has been done. The history behind this is Devesh Mishra is a taxi driver from Banaras, as he mentions, and two of his customers were a Swiss couple who happened to be passing through. They shot this video on their handycam, told him about this thing called YouTube. He should go online, post it. Other people, other foreigners, tourists could discover and he could get business because they were happy with his interaction. So they helped him out and to do this. So through some luck, this entire thing happened. After that, the part I'm asking you to go check yourself to understand the full value of this. The video got posted. He shared his email address here. He created his YouTube account with that. And everyone who has commented on that YouTube video, he has gone and replied to every single comment manually. If a taxi driver can do it, can the people sitting in this room do it? Yes? Look at the comments, you'll understand what sort of involvement he gave. There are Americans who have used hate speech, as in, why the hell are you here? Why are you selling your stuff to us? We don't care. Americans are very good at being very racist, very hateful on the internet. Most of the people they are more outspoken because there's more of them on the internet than anyone else, at least previously. Now there's more of us. So he has still gone and very calmly, in the standard tone of voice, in the same consistent way, communicated with each and every comment. For hate speech, he has responded very plainly, why do you have a problem with me? Why don't you come and I'll actually let you try out my service. If you think it's bad, don't pay me. Is he any different from a Lala or a shopkeeper or anyone else? He's just using the medium differently. Do you think he's using the medium properly? Is he achieving any of the ideals or the goals that Sir suggested we should do for branding? Do you have a mental makeup of what he's doing for his marketing efforts? Yes? This translated into this gentleman who used to ride around driving a single ambassador into owning a travel agency. His son studied in DPS after this as a result. From a taxi driver in Banaras to sending your son to DPS in Delhi is a very big deal, even if you have a business or not. Everyone agree? So is this a relevant case study for you to see? So the question that comes after this is, I've left my remote up there, is do you still have a question on why you're not on social media? Now, sir, do you think you should sign up for Facebook? Regardless of whatever your child says? I'm talking purely as business, sir. Okay. So my point of giving you this excessive build-up, when Mr. Sachin asked me how much content I have to share, how long a session this would be, I usually always have information overload for all of you, which is why I first shared the link to this entire presentation and then gave you the information. So I have 3 days of content, as I mentioned to him, to share with you. But I'm aware that all of you may not have that much time available. Neither do I. So the reason for building up this detailed context is now in the next 10 minutes, I'll go through the tools you can use to actually achieve this for your business. Okay? After that, we can break for lunch, sir? Is that okay? For the next 10 minutes, I'll just go at a slightly faster pace to explain tools that are possible. Because otherwise, if I explain those tools, you will not have context of why you should know. Why is it worth your time and effort to learn about them? So we'll skip through these. These just cover the same thing once again on when you're talking about various media. How are editorial media and traditional media different from social media? The whole context comes very plainly in terms of who is controlling the major information on a particular medium. If it's an editorial team, it's editorial media. If it's users, if it's user-generated content, then it's social media. Hence the bar, editorial or UGC. UGC is what we call user-generated content. Most of the businesses, most of online businesses, most online media, including newspapers, are today trying to go social. When I say the New York Times is more social today, BBC is more social, that doesn't mean they have abandoned their journalistic team and they're now going to create news from people. It means in literal terms of percentage content on your screen, if there is a news article which is 400 words, there will be another 400 words of content in terms of comments from users. If it's 401 words, then it tips in favor of UGC, then that medium is social. That's what it has boiled down to for a medium going social. Everyone get the context now? At least some of you. You can always go through the slide later at your own ease. So, examples of various media which are purely social. Facebook is one such example. Who creates the content on Facebook? Does Facebook create it? Do brands create it? Is this an editorial team who's pushing out the content? Yes? No? It's all people you know, right? So this is pure user-generated content. All of these are content created from people who you know, your network, which is why it is social inherently. This applies for YouTube also. All the content is created by other people. Blogging platforms, we all know what blogs are. Places where we publish our opinion. So WordPress is one example, Blogger is one example. Is WordPress.com a social platform? It says so on the screen, so yes. But if I have a blog on WordPress, which is how blogs exist, so it will be nikhilvarma.wordpress.com. Will that be a social media platform? Yes? No? Why no? Correct. When you are in charge of posting content, so my point of explaining this to you, if you have a company or a business blog, if you are creating the content and majority of it is still controlled by you, it is not a social media unless enough people are engaging with it. The point of people engaging is you know what your customers or your audience needs. Then you can call it a social media. So saying that you have a blog isn't enough. If your customers are engaging with you, then you are truly present on social media. Does that make sense to you? I would like a yes, no? Yes. Thank you. That's true for most of these media, including sites like TechCrunch, FirstPost, which are blogging platforms that are now carrying mainstream news. But once again here you have a very fixed editorial team. But they are more social in nature because for one post, as I was mentioning, 400-word post, they have about 200 comments. And each of those comments has more content than the actual post itself, which is the case with most news articles that we see. So what we can do using social media and business specifically is we can handle all these problems, all of these things. You can have what is known as ORM, online reputation management, which deals with understanding what people think and are talking about your brand online. That's actually a sphere by itself called ORM, or online reputation management. You have brand building, you have lead generation, sales, you can have referral traffic where other people are talking about your services on the internet. Do you realize now why we had to have the branding session to paint this in context? If I showed this to you at 11 a.m., would any of this make any sense? You first need to have a reason for being present as a brand. Only then you can talk about achieving it using these tools, which is why you're getting this at the pre-lunch session. What you can do, and this is a very good framework. This was created by Ogilvy Digital. It's called the 360-degree digital influence wheel. And these are the questions you eventually end up asking when you're trying to figure out the customers, the people you're trying to reach out to. This is the process of listening. 60% of your online work is listening to what your customers say, to what feedback they're giving you. Do they care about you? Do they have a problem with you? What are they thinking about you? What are they thinking about their customers? You solve the listening problem, half your digital effort is done. You don't need to have a Facebook page. You don't need to have a Twitter page. You don't need a website. As long as you know exactly what your customers are talking about. Does it make sense? Pushing out content which is relevant to your customers is a huge challenge. It's content and creative challenge. Everyone can't do it right away. As our friend discussed, we need help doing that with people who are skilled. But since we are in the business that we are doing, should we at least know about what the business is? Should we know about our customers? So the first step that all of you should achieve is start listening to your entire presence. If you're in the hospitality domain, if you're in the food domain, whatever domain you are, what are people talking about in that specific domain? Start there. Then, who are your customers? Are they present online? What are they talking about? You went from the domain to your actual target customers. Then you understand whether they're talking about you. If they're talking about you, is it positive? Is it negative? Do they prefer your service over your competitor's service? Is your competitor doing something better or worse? Can you capitalize on this? If you do this right, without being overtly present, you are just managing your business. This is something a business owner should know anyway. Correct? That's why you interact with your customers when possible in real life. You're doing this on the digital space. Use this as examples on various platforms. For checking into locations, you have a social network. For deals of the day, you have a social network. For online trades, you have sections. You have social networks for professional work. You have a social network for photo sharing. Why am I making this entire wheel? These are all ways people have of interacting with you. If you are a taco truck, they can post photos of your truck. They can check into the locations. You can know these many people came in. They can write a review about your things. These are all ways of your customers interacting with you. You are the only person who can genuinely figure out because you have the best domain knowledge of your business. If you don't, you need to work upon it so that you emerge on top of it. This is how you start. So these we already covered. This I will skip. I will give you the example which I was mentioning earlier. So this is a friend of mine called Vishal Gondal. He used to have this company called India Games that is now Disney UTV. So very rich guy, very savvy. He is also an investor. I believe he is a part of the TiE fraternity also. So he has a Audi Q7 which he gave for servicing to Audi India. After he gives it to them, he is, as I mentioned, very tech savvy. He likes owning a lot of gadgets. So he had a special GPS installed in his car. The only reason he got the GPS, he wanted to test whether the Audi GPS was accurate or not. So he got a second GPS fun techie guy. After he's given it for servicing, he gets an email alert which tells him that his car is doing 90 kilometers an hour on the Bandra-Worli sea link. It should be in the service center, and the GPS tells him this is the case. The reason for getting the GPS was that we could see accuracy of the Audi GPS. So now he's confused. Did he buy the GPS wrong, or is something wrong with the car? Right? So he calls them up. And here's the fun part. Since he is socially connected, he has a huge fan following, he decides to ask them about it. So he first takes a screenshot from that report, that's the link to that, and posts that on his Facebook. Then he gets on the phone call with them, and being a smart guy, he turns on a phone recorder application on the phone. So he records the conversation also. They reassure him that the car is safe and sound in the servicing center. And while he's doing that, he can see the car moving around, now doing 95 kilometers an hour on the Bandra-Worli sea link. So he's very patiently recording all of this stuff. That's the graph of the entire route that it took in the 95 minutes while he was on the phone with them. So the customer service is telling him the car is safe, parked, stationary, not moving, and the GPS is showing him this information. What do you think happened after this? So India hai, hota nahi hai. No matter how rich. Close, but that didn't happen. Anybody else? The Twitter account replied to him asking him for his phone number so they could get in touch with him. What do you think his response was? Because he's tweeting about it, he's on Facebook, so they're asking to get in touch with him. They already know who he is. They already know his car. He's already shared the details. He got even more pissed. I'm telling you about the exact details of my car which should be safe, and you're asking me how to reach me. You understand the lack of customer service engagement? This is social media done wrong once again. Somebody who's managing the social media is not connected with the business, it can also do harm. This is Indian context. This is all happening late in the night, by the way. Okay? The earlier thing. And so the original tweet went out at 2:40 a.m. because honestly, you can't go 95 kilometers on the Bandra-Worli sea link during the day. They have this thing called traffic everywhere. So this is during the night. Standard joyride happening by some very happy teenager who has a Q7 to show off. The next morning they're replying back. Other people start talking about it. This gentleman called Michael Perschke, who's the head for Audi and Volkswagen Group for Asia Pacific, replies back. That has happened by noon. I'm personally looking into this. The workshop at Audi Mumbai West is checking the concrete background because it has generated to an actual issue that people are talking about it. 2 a.m. the joyride happens. 7 a.m. they ask him for his contact details. 12 o'clock, this is in a single day. Remember 48 hours for Domino's? We are talking Bombay on Twitter. Not Domino's, not America. Bombay in November, 7 months back. In a matter of 7 hours. That evening he was on NDTV Profit, he was on CNBC TV 18 talking about this. The response, newsroom marketing in action. Opportunity. Thanks BMW India for sending me Mini Cooper as countryman. Will this be the new Batmobile? He calls this Q7 the Batmobile. They reacted seeing customer dissatisfaction. So while your car is away for joyrides, why don't you use our car? So everything I am actually telling you is applicable. It isn't just an interesting marketing case study that has no relevance to your business. It does work in Indian scenarios also. All that matters is it relevant enough for the audience that you have in mind? There is one other case study that I have, which I would take 5 minutes after I finish the tools, if you're still interested, because we are slightly pressed for time, because I deviate a lot. Thoda young hu, maaf kar do. So I'll come to this last. This is a company called Dulali. It was the first microbrewery in India, and I'll actually go through in detail as fast as I can on how we used only social media. So this was one of the startups funded independently by Mahesh and Anand and a lot of other people at Seed Fund. After Seed Fund realized that it didn't make sense as a business model for the company, they had a lot of independent angel investors. So they got all the business, all the marketing traction they had purely from Twitter and Facebook. And this was done by the founders and me in close association. So I'll come as a personal case study on how this was done very well using the tools I'm going to show you now. So everyone used Google.